How's it going, guys? I hope you're all doing well out there today, and welcome back to another video about the Kemper. Just wanted to say I've had quite a few new subscribers recently, so if you're new here, welcome. Very nice to have you. If you're into the Kemper stuff, I've done loads of content dating back. I'll try and link a playlist up here. That kind of stuff might be useful for you. Also do pedal demos and just general nerdy hangouts, so check out previous videos. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for the continued support, and let's get into today's video. So over the past couple of months, I've been getting really into ambient sounds, big textural pads and things like that, and I've been programming them all on the Kemper. They're really great for adding to recordings, really fills out some space, but it's also just great for jamming by yourself because you've got this big textural pad behind you. Just, it's really sort of an inspiring sound to play. So I thought today I would let you in on how I go about creating those ambient sounds so you can do them for yourself. I know that you guys have been a fan of the more spacey sounds that I've created before, so today we're going to go into it. Now, I seem to have a bit of a division in my audience of people that just want to press a button and download the sounds I've been using. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but then I've got a portion of the audience that wants to know how they can go about making them themselves. If they know what they want, they sort of want to have a tweak. So today's video is going to be a little bit of both. What I've done is I've created a pack of 14 ambient sounds that you can just go to my website, danleggattguitarist.co.uk, and download. I'll link it below. For a very small fee, you can just download those, drag them onto your Kemper and play. I'll do a full demonstration in a second. And then I'm going to, after that, go into exactly my thought process and kind of settings and stuff if you wanted to go about creating your own ambient sounds instead. Each of these sounds is designed using a number of blocks in series. If you listen to something like the Strymon Big Sky, for example, you can tell with some of the engines that they're chains of delays, reverbs, filters, and modulation just to create the big ambient sounds. I think that's a much better way of doing it than just opening a reverb and turning it right up. It gets in the way of the playing, and it's not very complex to my ears. It just sounds a bit one-dimensional. When you start chaining things together, it opens up the interplay between them, and that's, to me, what makes a really great ambient sound. These patches have been designed in stereo, and stereo really brings out that ambient feel. So get out your headphones or studio monitors, stereo amp, however you do it. They do some down to mono really well, but stereo is just another level. I've designed them using my profile, so mainly the Laney VC15. But what you can do is once you've downloaded them, you can lock the effects blocks and change it for your own profile if you prefer. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do anything interesting on the remote like the freeze or anything because my Kemper remote is actually in for repair currently. But it's very easy to assign. If you want to know how to do it, check out one of my previous videos, but you can assign it to your remote, no problems. If you want to download the pack from the website, once you download it, you'll have a list of rigs that you can just drag over to Rig Manager. They're all made around the profiles that I've created, so mainly my Laney VC15, and they're all named. So I'm sharing my Rig Manager with you now. This will be the list that you end up with. So I've named each of the patches, and they're all various ambient kind of tones. So the first one, the one you heard in the intro, is called Ambient Vinyl, and it's sort of a dirty delay and reverb with some pitch detuning as well on the main guitar signal to give you that sort of lo-fi vibe. It sounds like this. I have to be careful not to talk over the trails. The next one is called Broken Loop, and it's a real glitchy delay reverb thing, kind of a little bit like the Chase Bliss blooper. Kind of sounds like this. and the glitchiness is actually kind of triggered by your playing. So the harder you hit, it will do weirder and weirder things. So that's quite cool. Next up is a patch called Crystal Tape. So it's a real degraded tape echo, but with some higher octave stuff going on. And that's also good for kind of staccato-y parts as well. Next up is a patch called Dark Shimmer, which is a higher octave shimmer kind of thing, but again a bit more lo-fi. I'm really into the more vibey delay and reverb sounds than the big crystally pads, you know. So it's still got that ethereal pad-like thing, but much more, got a lot more character. Next up is a patch called Dead Spring, which is sort of like a really messed up spring reverb. Next up, we've got Deep Space, which is, there's a patch in here later on called Space, and that's my main ambient sound that I use for pretty much everything. This is Deep Space that's got a little bit more of everything going on. The next one is called Drifting, and it's a more subtle ambience. Again, I use it a lot for overdubs and things. Next on the list is one called Driven Space. It's the only gainy profile in there, and it's based on my Laney VC15, and it's got a nice ambience to it that doesn't get in the way of the playing, so nice for sort of textural parts, textural leads. This next one's called Hourglass, and it's kind of a grainy, lo-fi kind of pad. So you can hear that the reverb tails are quite filtered and quite granular. I really like that kind of thing. Then we've got one called Ping Pong Filter, which is a path of a delay running into a filter that's triggered by your playing. So the repeats get filtered as the filter drops out. Easier for me just to play than try and explain it. So the filter is crushing one of the delays as it goes, which I find very amusing. Next one is called Pitch Mood, and kind of reminds me of the Chase Bliss Mood pedal when you start getting in and messing with all the controls. You can hear a lot of panning and stuff in there. This one's called Sandstorm, and it's because it kind of reminds me of wind blowing sand across a desert. But then I think I've just spent too long indoors. All the repeats and the tails are really filtered and saturated and granular, and it sounds a bit like this. I think that's definitely one of my favourites out of this list. Next on the list is the one that I call Space, which is my go-to ambient sound for pretty much everything. It doesn't get in the way of the playing. And last in the pack is Swell. So it's got an auto volume swell with loads of texture behind it. Again, really good for just adding layers to a track or a loop. And that is all the sounds in the pack. If you want to go to the website and download it, I'll include a link down below. These are all best in stereo, 100% best in stereo, but they do sum down to mono pretty good as well. But I would recommend stereo if you're into this ambient thing. If you're someone that prefers just to get stuck in and design their own kind of sounds because you know exactly what you want, that's great. So I'm going to show you my thought process and things. Like I said, it's about the stacking of different engines and the order of those to get the sound that you're after. It's the interplay between them that really creates that interesting ambience to my ears. So I've got just my dry Laney VC, well, dry-ish, a little tiny bit of reverb, Laney VC15 dialed up. So first of all, I want to think about exactly what kind of sound I want. Do I want something big and sparkly or something lo-fi and ambient? It really changes exactly what you want to do. So for this, let's go for something big and sparkly. So I know automatically that I want to go for the ionosphere reverb. Stock settings. So want a lot more mix. To shave off a little bit of high end, and this brass control is cool as well because it adds a little tiny bit of distortion. I like a lot of modulation. Then I want some upper octave action, so in this pitch block here you can make that happen. The build up adds to that pitch climb kind of thing. I'll leave the formant down for now, and we have this. So you can hear the sparkle that's added. I'm just going to turn the decay time down a little bit so it's easier to talk over the top. If you want it even more sparkly, add another octave above that too. So that's getting the kind of shimmer that I want. I would probably add a little bit more modulation to that. So that's a good starting point. I then know that I like a sort of analog delay sound, so I'll add that in here. Just single delay. I like a lot of grit, flutter, modulation, and a lot of high cut. So you can hear that that's adding a nice sway, and it's that nice kind of gritty analog thing that I like. So then when you combine the two, we've now got this. And because of the order that they're stacked, that delay every time it repeats is getting pushed into the ionosphere reverb. I think I'm saying that right. Ionosphere reverb, and creating this like blooming pad type thing. Then I think I want to add some stereo delay. So if we turn those off for a second and add in, I want kind of a pad. So if I go to the presets, I know that there's one that's a good starting point for the delay called dark grains. So if you add that, it sounds like this. But that's too overpowering for what I want. Plenty of cross feedback. More sounds like this. So that's sort of adding another, even though it's a delay, it's more of a reverb type thing where all of the repeats across the stereo spectrum build up. So then when we add the single delay to that, you've got that mushy kind of analog thing feeding into that stereo. And then when you add the ionosphere on top, you've then got the shimmer. So that really builds into something that, again, doesn't get in the way of your playing. When you stack the blocks up, it doesn't get in the way of what the core playing is, but you've still got this massive wash behind you. And then if you switch the order of effects around, you'll hear how much difference that makes. The ionosphere is now feeding the delays, which one of them is crushy and analog. It's making the reverb tails crushy and analog. Whereas the other way around, you've got that crushy analog thing into big open space. So really think about the effects order. It makes a big difference to the sounds. So that was just a quick insight into how I build an effects chain for these kind of tones. There's plenty of engines in there to play around with. Or if you wanted to, download the pack that I've got and just disassemble it for your own use. Take the settings, change the profiles, whatever you want to do. I hope this was of interest to some of you out there. Please leave a comment down below if there's anything you particularly want to see in an upcoming video. Really appreciate you watching. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button, and I hope to see you in another video. Cheers, guys.